Hey everybody! In today's tutorial, we are going to do some fun mixed media goodness with this gorgeous 3D tree embossing folder. It's so beautiful and this technique is really fun. We're going to start with some Distress Oxide ink on a piece of craft mat or on your glass mat, whatever. And then go ahead and spray that with water. You're going to need a decent amount of water to make this technique work. Now I've embossed a piece of photo paper with this tree embossing folder, and I made sure that the shiny side, the emulsion side of the photo paper, is the side that has the raised pattern on it. You of course can have it raised or debossed or whatever, but that's what I chose to do because of what you're going to see later in the video. Now the thing about this emulsion is it will grab that ink and it won't move after it's touched that paper. So that will become important later on. Now, because these are Distress Oxides, they have a chalky appearance even on the photo paper. But the great thing about the shiny side of this photo paper is we can rub that oxidation off. So that chalky finish that these inks have will go away, and this will be a bright, shiny, intense color. And the shininess of the paper comes through, as you can see, but it removes that white finish that oxides have and just reveals this beautiful jewel-like color underneath. So now I'm going to switch to vintage photo. This is going to be kind of an all-over color. I wanted to mix these colors. And like I said, wherever that color lands, that is going to stick. So you can see that putting the vintage photo on does not move that blue ink that's underneath. So we'll add just a little bit more of this vintage photo. This is a real pretty combination, these two colors. You can add a lot of water to really move that around. You can spray the paper directly to sort of have it run. It's completely up to you. I kind of like the little textures that you see, so I leave those there. And you do want to dry this in between every step. That's what allows you to remove that white layer and reveal that really vibrant, shiny, colored surface underneath. So I dry it with a heat gun and you can see it's dull, but the blue is shiny. And then look at that pop of color when I just rub that off with a dry cloth. It's just incredible. I love, love, love the way that this looks. You could, of course, just leave it the other way if you wanted to. That's completely up to you. But I like this sort of transparency that I get, which is not a normal thing with Distress Oxides. Normally they are opaque and they layer on top of each other. But using this photo paper lets you get some transparency in there. And so I will move on to the next color. And you can see you can spray that water right on that paper. And that lets you get a little bit more out of a little bit of ink. So I'll add a little bit more, but it'll spread the ink all over. And this is such a beautiful color. I think this is Villainous Potion. I'm almost positive that it is. So I'll spritz that, move it around. That's a very intense color, so I don't want it to get too dark and kind of obscure the other colors. But again, you'll want to dry this and then rub that chalkiness off. I do dab up the little extra pools of color here. It just makes it move along faster and you're not hurting anything that's underneath because that emulsion has grabbed that color. So you're still going to be able to see that. So I will dry that one once again. And as you can see, as I'm drying it, you can see that chalkiness appear and it's just going to be magic when I wipe that away. So make sure that that is thoroughly dry and then we'll do our magic step of rubbing that off. Look at that. It's just incredible the difference between the dull areas and the areas that you've rubbed that off in. So pretty. Now, I'm not really paying attention to what parts of this scene have what colors, but you could definitely deliberately do that And it just so happens that I kind of accidentally, a lot of these trees kind of ended up being that blue-green. So that's up to you. If you want to do that, you could also apply it a different way so as to be more precise, but that really wasn't what I was going for. I wanted this kind of almost chaotic mixed media background, and you'll see why, because I'm really going to be highlighting those trees later on. So on this layer, I'm doing the same thing, adding the ink, but then also spraying it. This makes it go a lot faster because you're covering a bigger area with the color than just kind of picking up those more discreet little ink things. So I'll dab it again, get rid of any puddles. I dried it, and now I'm going to rub that off and reveal that vibrant blue again. Really fun technique. Really, you get a lot more out of your ink this way because oxides have such a fun effect, but then you can take it back to this kind of jewel tone color and shine that you get with the photo paper. So make sure that you've rubbed everything off that you want to rub off before we move on to the next step. And that is going to be highlighting the trees. So I have a little bit of white acrylic paint, a very little bit. I'm running out, as you can see. And then I have a Local King Magic Mushroom, which has a very soft foam and kind of covers a large area. So it lets me put the color where I want it and not kind of get it into the background. So this is going to bring those trees back into focus, even amidst that chaotic, colorful background. What you're going to notice is the trees. And the reason that I went to all the trouble of putting the ink on, making it shiny again with the fun photo paper technique, is that now I have the contrast between the shiny background and the trees are going to have a matte finish from the acrylic paint. So I have color contrast, I have texture contrast, I have the contrast between dull and shiny, and all that does is make this beautiful, beautiful design more apparent to the viewer. This is also a really fun card to look at up close. Despite the fact that this is a really easy and quick technique, this is a card that you could just stare at if you had it in your hands. There's a lot to look at with the design in this embossing folder, and all of these layers of color and technique really, really make it an intriguing card, in my opinion. This is an absolutely stunning, ultra realistic embossing folder that I think is just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in stamping. It's really, really pretty. It makes me think of a friend of mine who lives up on a mountain in Colorado, and this must be what she sees every day. I love it. So hi, Lee, if you're listening. So I just keep going with the paint until it's the way that I like it. And I feel like I've highlighted some of the trees, that I really want to stand out. Like there's one down front that I put extra paint on, and I just think it's such a beautiful shape. So by the time I'm done, you can definitely see the forest for the trees, but you also have that really vibrant, shiny, shiny, colorful background with lots of texture, lots of little spots of ink to kind of catch your eye. It's so pretty. So once this is all over, you can trim this down. I'll trim it down for my card front, but it's so beautiful just as it is. It would make a gorgeous journal cover. Like I said, the emulsion grabs the ink, so you don't have to worry about sealing this or anything. That ink is in there for the long haul. So now we'll do just a little different color scheme just for fun with the exact same process. I have the photo paper that is already embossed. And like I said, this photo paper, for whatever reason, it grabs the detail of this embossing so well, like almost better than cardstock. I mean, I didn't know what to expect the first time I did this technique. I did this at a retreat years ago, and I had never seen it done before, so I was experimenting, and I thought for sure that photo paper was going to crack. But instead, it gives you this incredible detail. Now I dried that off camera, and I'm wiping off the chalkiness, and it just when I was making this card, I was thinking, I hope this doesn't end up looking like a forest fire. I wanted it to look like fall trees. And it does end up looking like fall trees, but that's such a fiery, beautiful color on there. I just think it's so pretty. And see how the ink grabs when it first touches the paper? It's just not going to go anywhere after that. It's there, and I love that. Now, the combination of the vintage photo with the orange is great. It really looks like a fall scene to me, and I'm going to add just a little bit more brown so that most of this is colored. And what you want to remember is the darker your colors, the more the acrylic paint step is going to show up. So you can see when I'm blotting, I'm not really removing color. I'm just removing liquid from the surface. So you don't have to worry that it's going to fade when you're blotting it. It's not. So here I've dried it, and now I'm revealing it again just by rubbing that over the surface. This is like embossing. Every time I do it, I'm like, ooh, ah. I think it's amazing. So there is the fall version. Now this one I actually ended up cutting in half and using on 2 different cards. That takes a lot of bravery, I'm not going to lie, because I really, really like this technique and I liked these panels a lot. But I just wanted to have 2 really different looking cards instead of just kind of the same card done the same way. So just trying not to be boring. That's all I'm trying to do. So I'll add paint all over again. Again, I think it's more interesting if some trees have more paint than others. So you'll see me applying more paint to some of them, just kind of leaving more paint on the little magic mushroom as I go over to put it on. Whereas with the other trees, I tap it off kind of at the bottom of my craft mat before going in. So you'll just get a different look, however you want it to be. But think about this for all seasons of the year. I mean, here you have a fall one and what I consider to be a Christmas one with those blues and purples. But you could have anything, any color pattern would just be beautiful with this technique. So there you have it again, the shiny, shiny, shiny background. Almost looks like you've put something on it to make it shiny. And then that matte finish of that acrylic paint, which I just think is spectacular. So pretty. These 2 look so different. They could not look more different with that choice of color. And so you can kind of get more out of your embossing folders with this fun technique. So here's a close-up of the 2 cards that I made today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.